Welcome into our NFL upset picks for Week 13, looking at the weekend slate. I'm Spencer. He is Jason. We are both from Pool Genius. Last week, we went 1-2 on these picks, and Jason, you were able to salvage us with your Thursday Night Football upset special, taking the Houston Texans over the Buffalo Bills, and that was enough to put us in the black for the week. I believe that was plus 219 on the money line, so we dropped our other two, still able to eke out a profit. So the audience awaits your selection with bated breath on the edge of their seat here for week number 13. But I think they're actually looking forward to something else, which is what musical rendition you have in store for us in this video.
You know, I don't know that I'm inspired by music. I'm inspired by coaching, bad teams, all sorts of stuff. But I don't have a song in my head this week. But
That's a given. That feels like a given. Is Jason Lisk inspired by bad teams? That's why this upset picks video is such a natural fit for you, because you're looking at the ugly teams every single week as is. So
nobody wanted to touch. So I'm gonna go to the weekend. We're gonna take our first pick this Sunday. Outdoors in New York, the Jets is a slight dog against Kirk Cousins. The Falcons on the road is a favorite. You know, this is one of those ugly games late in the year. Neither of these teams have any kind of playoff hope. Things have gone south for these teams. But the Falcons are going north, and so I'm going to bring you some data on this. This is, first of all, I'll say this is our model pick too. Our model does like this one, but I like it as well, and I'm going to give you some numbers here. Atlanta, 6-11-1 against the spread the last 2 years with Coach Raheem Morris is a favorite. I know that shouldn't surprise people because we've lived through it in Survivor. They are 0-2 as a road favorite this year. They've lost those games by a combined 50-10. So to say Atlanta's inconsistent and can underperform any kind of expectation is an understatement. So Atlanta on the road as a favorite is something I want to look against anyway. But then we take in this outdoor factor because Atlanta plays in the NFC South. They played last week at the Saints in the Superdome. Most of their matchups in division are not going to be like significant bad weather games. The furthest they go north outdoors is Carolina, Charlotte, which can get a little chilly maybe in late December. But when they have played outdoors at an outdoor venue in what we call the North, Central, East, our traditional outdoor places, week 12 or later in the last decade, they are 1-8 straight up, 2-6-1 against the spread. So this Atlanta team and Atlanta teams in general coming out of the NFC South, where they rarely play those road games. They don't have the division. Like Miami gets to go to New England, the Jets, in division, but this Atlanta team does not play division games late, so they rarely play. So catching them here in a spot where there's low expectations for the Jets, you're getting plus money. You're getting a team that doesn't have much to play for, but the Jets are kind of an unknown. I like just playing against Atlanta here as the road favorite and getting the points with the Jets.
Yep, and I like that. The money line dog at home. We see this as we're recording it Wednesday morning. The Jets are plus 125 on the money line, so that's where we're going with the first upset pick of week 13. For my upset pick, I am looking towards a team that I backed last week that almost came through for us, lost in overtime. It's the Arizona Cardinals. They're traveling on the road this week at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I am seeing plus 140 on the money line for the Arizona Cardinals, listed around plus 3, plus 2.5 in certain spots here on Wednesday morning. And I think, so this is sort of a referendum against Tampa Bay and that situation with Baker Mayfield. Now, I don't know if he's going to play or not. There's reports saying that he might be able to play. I think he's going to carry that questionable tag and game time decision up until Sunday. The real question is if he does play, which I think he probably does, just knowing Baker Mayfield, that he's stubborn like that. He's kind of a grinder. He wants to go out there and put it all out on the field and prove people wrong. But if he does play, how many hits can he take? Like it's Carson Wentz had the same injury earlier this year, and we saw him just get absolutely beat up and really end his season on a Thursday night football game against the Chargers. So will Baker Mayfield be able to stand in there and deliver? And this team is really relying on him. The Tampa Bay Bucks, like if you go back to the beginning of the season, they were relying on Baker Mayfield to pull them out of some sticky situations. The 2-minute drill on the end of games, that's how they won their first two games. Um, Basically him making throws that were I mean, you don't expect him to make all of those. And especially now that he's injured, we've seen variants take hold of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. And Tampa is also one of those teams very good against the run on defense, not so good against the pass on defense. And that's all Arizona does. They air it out with Jacoby Brissett, who's been really rejuvenated his career up to this point. And I think he can do it again against this Tampa defense. And I like getting a dog like this that can move the ball, gain yardage, and if they're down by say 4 points with 2 minutes to go and they need to go 80 yards, they can do that. Like Jacoby Brissett can air this out, hit Trey McBride, hit Michael Wilson. We've seen him do it the past 2 weeks. So I like Arizona as a dog here, and it's even better. I think we get some value on the money line if Baker Mayfield is ruled out because, man, we saw Teddy Bridgewater last week. There is a significant drop off from Baker Mayfield to Teddy Bridgewater. I'm not convinced Teddy Bridgewater at this stage in his career should be orchestrating an NFL offense. I think Arizona would have the upper hand if Baker Mayfield is out or limited, or maybe he gets, maybe he gives it a go the first couple drives and then gets knocked out. Um, Either way, I like the variance here for the underdog, and I'm taking Arizona.
I like that. I'm going to give you some. I know Baker's going to push to play. We know this, right? We know. I'm going to give you from an organizational perspective what they should be telling. We're highly likely to win the NFC South. We've already got a lead on Carolina. And guess who they play twice in the last 3 weeks? Carolina, right? Mike Evans might be back by then. We've got them at 86% to win the South. They are almost certainly locked into the 4 seed. Like they're probably not passing. They're not catching, the Rams. They're not catching Philadelphia. They're probably not catching the NFC North. Whoever emerges goes on a run down the stretch. So they're probably locked in the 4 seed if they make the playoffs. There's almost no chance they're a wild card. So really their season comes down to, can you do enough to win the NFC South? This game matters relatively less than those games will in the last month when they're playing the Panthers twice and they play a division game against the Saints next week. That I know it doesn't sound like as good an opponent, but that's a more important game for them. So just from a structural standpoint, it makes all the sense of the world to just rest him this week, even if he wants to push through, even if he thinks he can play. You say, hey, man, we need you for the final month. We're going to make the playoffs in the final month. So I think that's in play. Like, we'll see if cooler heads prevail, but it makes zero sense for him to go on the field with an injured shoulder if it's at all going to impact him, at least for this week. Then you can check it after this week, but I think you got to rest him from a structural standpoint. The other thing I want to talk about, I'm going to go on a little Jason names some guys thing here because we get to talk about playoffs and all that, but you made a pick on Jacoby Brissett. You had him last week, by the way. Unfortunate. We're 0-2 in overtimes the last 2 weeks on ugly picks, including Arizona last week, where it could have gone 2-0 with a little better luck in the overtime period, but lost those. But Jacoby Brissett has been lighting it up, as you said. Most people remember the Hall of Famers and the stars. I like to remember, because I played fantasy football for over 20 years, and I also grew up as a Chiefs fan, not when they had Patrick Mahomes. I grew up before Marty Schottenheimer. I grew up when Bill Kinney was throwing the ball on a losing team late in the year for yards to Stephon Page and Carlos Carson. So these are name of guys that only old people will know. But the Chiefs were a bad team then, And so even before I played fantasy football, I was rooting for guys on bad teams throwing for yards. Brissett has that feel to him. I'm going to take you back. Billy Volek took over for Steve McNair in 2004. McNair was hurt halfway through the year. Volek and Drew Bennett, legends of the fantasy football. That's what this feels like with Brissett and like Michael Wilson right now. So I'm rooting for them to just continue to rack up numbers. I love good bad teams. That is entertaining teams that are bad. I hate bad teams that just. And here I am picking the Jets. So it doesn't make sense. But I like this Brissett, Drew Bennett, Billy Volek. I mean, go back and look it up, folks. If you don't remember 2004, fantasy gold. Like if you pick those dudes up at like halfway through the season, starting them by Thanksgiving, Drew Bennett, wide receiver, went for 8 touchdowns and over 100 yards, 8 total touchdowns in a 3-week span, and like over 400 something yards. Billy Volek was throwing for 400 and something yards a game for the Titans. It was like this Brissett thing where he set the record for completion. So I think I like this Arizona team to just be a fun team that can pull the upset because they can pass the ball and rack up yards.
All right. So you just jogged my memory there. Speaking of fantasy performances, and against the Chiefs, so I think you'll know this one.
The Browns
Who
running
was
back?
the Browns running back that almost went for the record? I want to say it was early 2000s, 2005 or 6. Was it Harrison?
Jerome Harrison. So that
Jerome
was
Harrison.
a game.
Yeah.
That was another meaningless game. These games that have no playoff implications sometimes produce gold. That was another one because I think that was a Jamal Charles, Jerome Harrison like duel, like where Harrison went for like some massive amount, so much so that people were drafting him like in the top 2 or 3 rounds the next year, and then he got traded to I think the Eagles.
Yeah, he was like a backup.
Yeah,
like right up until that game, right?
he had taken over maybe a week or 2 earlier. Yeah, he had just started to get like starter reps. But yes, that was his career game, and I think it was weeks, might have been 15 or 16. It was in the fantasy playoffs for sure.
Yeah, and so also shout out to Jacoby Brissett. He's carrying about 4 out of 5 of my fantasy teams this year.
He's just my starter on my main one because I had Kyler Murray, and I picked him up as soon as I read the tea leaves that Murray wasn't actually going to come back.
That's been my strategy the last 2 years. Like in a 12-man league, usually people only have one quarterback and then they go out and find a waiver. Last year I had Jared Goff that I picked him up off the bench and he was lighting it up. This year I picked up Jacoby Brissett and I have Daniel Jones on another one. So it's like it's the 0 QB draft formula. Like I'm going to push to make a movement for that.
Stars or scrubs. I'm actually starting over Trevor Lawrence consistently because I'm like, okay, I'm going with the good bad quarterback. Yeah, when you have you know you can get those running backs, folks, and I've got Bijan and Devon Chain, and so then I just need a quarterback that will give me something. And right now
it's 20 fantasy points a week, basically. So we certainly hope for the upset pick and for our fantasy teams that he's pushing that again this week. So our third upset pick of the week, we're going to move over to the BetIQ model. And this week, Jason, the BetIQ model spoke loud and clear about which upset pick it likes. It's at the very top of our money line model, glowing. Well, I'm kind of exaggerating there, but it's the New Orleans Saints plus 226 on the money line at the Miami Dolphins. What's the analysis behind this pick?
Yeah, I'll give you the justification. Obviously, the model loves the Saints. The model loves bad teams more than I do. Sometimes.
Did you create the model?
How much? No, I didn't, but we're brothers from another mother. So here's your like, okay, what could be going on? I do think that some fumble luck is going into this, like with the Dolphins and then the Saints' recent turnover. They've turned the ball over a ton in recent games, and so usually when those things happen, you're getting a little bit of value on regression with money lines and spreads. So that's part of it. Part of it is the Dolphins are another bad team, and we want to play like They're not a great team. They're inconsistent. I nearly won going against them as a favorite 2 weeks ago in Madrid until overtime and some fumbles late. Thank you, Washington punt returner. Sunk that one. But so that's in play. The other thing I would say is this: the Saints team is not a good, running team. Hasn't been a particularly good running team this year. And they have what we would say are questionable quarterbacks. They're not the kind that you want dropping back 50 times a game like Jacoby Brissett has been doing. You want them to have some protection from the run, and they haven't been getting it in most games. This Miami rush defense actually isn't good. And think about who the Saints have performed best against. They went to a leaky Bills defense and kept it in the game the entire game when they were a massive underdog and covered the spread and had a chance in the fourth quarter in that game. And then they played the Giants at home, probably the worst rush defense we've seen. We saw Gibbs. They can't hold leads because their rush defense is so bad. Gibbs gashed them in overtime for the game winner last week and put up an insane amount of yards. So they're another rush defense that struggles. The Saints beat them at home 26-14. So that's one of their 2 wins. So anyway, I'm just saying the matchup, because the opposite end of the spectrum, when they've played teams like the Seahawks and Rams that have suffocating rush defenses, they get their doors blown off because they just can't keep up. They don't have the quarterback. Those quarterbacks are in 3rd and long, and it just devolves into a bad game. So I think this is the type of game the Saints can hang around and win because of Miami's defense, and particularly their rush defense.
Yeah, and what do you make of Miami coming off a bye here and playing this at home? Is that just I mean, does that add to the line? Does that add to the value that we're getting here? I mean, obviously that's priced in.
You get a little bit of it priced in coming off buys typically, and it is priced slightly. I mean, it might be a half point, and it's inconsistent. But yeah, I mean, you're getting a late in the year. They did travel back for Europe, so part of their bye week was recovering from an overseas trip. But I think it's more, how good is Miami? How consistent are they? They aren't consistent for sure. And so it's a play against another favorite that is laying a lot of points and giving up significant plus money. You can get this one at over plus, what do we say, 220 to 25?
226 is what we got, yeah.
So that means you need 30. If you have a 33%, 32% chance, you're doing well in this one if it can hit that much. So, yeah, we like the Saints at value to pull a bigger upset.
All right, that's going to do it for our upset picks for NFL Week 13, the weekend slate. If you want to see what we have going for the Thanksgiving slate, you can check out all of our content over at poolgenius.com. Also, we have several NFL Survivor videos for this week up on our YouTube channel. And if you want to get these upset picks each and every week, go ahead and sign up for our newsletter called NFL by the Numbers. I will pin that as a comment below. So with that, we wish you luck in NFL Week 13.